Hi guys, welcome back. So, what if your visa has expired and you want to go to Canada or Mexico for Cancun holiday, right? There's a rule in the US laws that states that if your visa has expired but your I-94 is valid, you can still go to Canada or Mexico. But that's the only countries, right? Canada or Mexico. You should not be traveling away from Canada. You should not be going away from Mexico. Can go to Canada or Mexico and come back within 30 days so that you can re-enter the US. On your previous I-94, you don't need a new stamping. This is valid for F visas, this is valid for H visas, this is valid for L visas. So most non-immigrant visas are covered under this. It's better to check with your lawyer. It's better to check yourself by blogs and data points and everything. And this is not a legal advice, but what we'll be going through is what is AVR, how can AVR be used, and did I use it? Let's see. Okay, let's start sharing my screen and see what is AVR, right? So I go on Google, I search for AVR USA. Does this something come up? Oh, great. Automatic Revalidation, US Visas website. This is the official website. It's not me, so we're good, right? What is the automatic revalidation? The Department of Homeland Security has authority and the responsibility over the admissions of traveler to the United States. Under automatic revalidation provision of immigration law, certain temporary visitors holding expired non-immigrant visas who seek to return to US must be admitted by US Port of Entry by CBP if they meet certain requirements and included but not limited to the following. Okay, so that means that most of the non-immigrant visas, I would believe this also applies for B1, B2 tourist visas, but I haven't read about that, but this is what it is. Non-immigrants who departed the United States for brief travel to Canada or Mexico. For F and J non-immigrants, so the student visas, I think F are the student visas and J are the sponsored visas. So they can go to the adjacent island, and we can go over the adjacent island list here. Let's do that. Come on, let's do that. So your adjacent islands. So what are adjacent islands? Adjacent islands are Bermuda. I went to Bermuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Jamaica, and you have the whole list of here, right? Going back, non-immigrants with a valid unexpired admission stamp or paper from I-94, which means your I-94 should be valid or your arrival departure record. So let's say when you come to the US for the first time, or when you're returning to the US, they put a stamp on it, right? And on the stamp, they also write the date. So you'll be seeing right now that this is my stamp and it has a date on it that this is the time till when I am allowed. So let's go with the I-94. On I-94, these are my details. I have written most of the things, but these are my details, and it says that this person is allowed to stay till this date, right? So let's go further on this. Who must reapply for and be reissued a visa at US Embassy or Consulate? So this is also a list in which they say that who should definitely reapply for a US visa if they want to re-enter. Okay. This webpage explains why traveler must reapply and be reissued visas and their existing visas when their existing visas have expired, even if they are in possession of valid admission stamps. So even if you have an I-94, but your date is maybe a year, 2 years later, but you still need a US visa, and this is the list for that. Many non-immigrants will need to reapply and be reissued visas to re-enter the US when their existing visas have expired, even if they're in possession of valid I-94, because automatic revalidation applies to limited categories of travel, right? The following temporary visitors whose non-immigrant visas have expired but who have a valid I-94 must reapply for and be issued a non-immigrant visa prior to their re-entry to the United States. If one of the following situation exists, one or more. The non-immigrant traveler with an expired visa but valid I-94 who needs to apply is someone who has applied for a new visa which has not yet been issued. So let's say if I went to the US Embassy or a Canadian Embassy or an Indian Embassy or a Pakistani Embassy or anywhere in the world embassy, and you applied for a visa and then you don't have the visa yet, you need a valid visa. The point is that you still wouldn't be able to travel if you don't have it. So let's say if you reapply for a visa while you're in US, but you haven't got that yet, You can't use the AVR, the automatic revalidation, right? What's the second part? Applied for a new visa and was denied. Okay, this person cannot use the AVR. Has been outside of the United States for more than 30 days. Now that's very important. So when you exit the US, that's when the date starts. And when you enter back, if your duration has been more than 30 days, maybe 31 days, you wouldn't be allowed to enter the US. Under the AVR, of course. Has traveled to a country other than Canada, Mexico, or adjacent island which is not included in the AVR provisions. Okay, so let's say if I went to Canada and then I took a flight to Singapore, then I came back to Canada and I wanted to enter the US. I said I'm within my 30 days AVR use, you will be denied, because you can only go to Canada, stay in Canada and come back. You can only go to Mexico, stay in Mexico and come back. Very important. Is a national state of sponsor terrorism, and the designated countries are Iran, Syria, and Sudan. Unfortunately, I don't know if they do it, if they don't, that's a different topic. Is in possession of a S student visa or J exchange visitor visa and has traveled to Cuba. So if you're an F or J, you can't go to Cuba. Please don't go to Cuba. I love the Cuban cigars, but don't go to Cuba. Is in possession of a M student visa and has traveled to a location outside the US other than Canada or Mexico. So if you have an M visa and you have traveled outside Canada or Mexico, you're not allowed. That's about the rules. What I did, you saw my visa stamp, you saw my visa, you saw my I-94. If not, these are the things, right? Now, I went to Canada on a certain date. I went in, I spent 4 or 5 days there, met friends and family, great food though. Roamed around, came back to the US border. There were questions asked. Now, what were these questions? They said, what country are you from? What's your citizenship from? I said, my country is blah, blah, blah. And it's not US. He said, okay. Sorry. She said, okay. Is this, where do you live? I said, Virginia, and all that address. She said, okay. Is this car plate Virginia number plate? I said yes. Is this under your name? I said yes. She said okay. What did she do then? And she said, okay, give me your passports. I give her my passports, my wife and my son's. I gave them my passports, and she checked it out and she said, okay, you're valid till this date. She didn't ask for any document. So what I took with me was all the documentations, and I wanted to give it to her so that if she wants to see, she can. And I had my I-94 copies as well, and all the other documents, what she didn't ask for anything. She said, okay, you're valid till 2024, you should be good. I said, okay. And we chatted about a few things. She spoke to my son. She said, how was your vacation? And my son blabbered about how we met friends and how we ate food and all of those things. She was pretty nice. She was pretty friendly. She talked about it, and then we entered. That's about it. That is about it. And now you see on my I-94, you see this date. This date is the one in which it mentions that I went outside, and this is the date that I came in. So my I-94 was updated with the departure and arrival, but they were not updated on the dates, like the admission date of admitted till date was not updated. So that's the awesome thing about the AVR thing, the entire AVR thing. It was terrific. It was easy. I was very scared because I was exiting US, and entering US is like just a nervous system breaks down. But it was awesome. You guys can do it too. And if you have any questions, please hit me up. I'll be more than happy to respond to it. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.